CJ Baxter is expected to miss the season, tearing his LCL, PCL during practice. On Tuesday, Baxter's injury will require surgery and recovery time in between 6 to 9 months. Oh, that hurts.
Damn it.
That hurts so bad. Like, Cole, I went on a rant yesterday. Chip had to leave 15 minutes to get on the field and see what's popping. And I did a rant yesterday about just how important CJ Baxter and Jaydon Blue both being up for the Doak Walker Award and what Steve Sarkisian could do with that is. And now you're without him for the rest of the year. That's a huge blow.
It's massive for so many different reasons. It's not just the fact of not having your guy that you believe could be a difference maker. It's the fact that it hurts every bit of the process of the offense. Every single part of it is now you're having to game plan around it, and you're having to find new avenues and creases that are going to benefit you and not change the trajectory of this team, which is why it is such a detriment, because we know what this offense can be when they have all the pieces humming at the right time. And every single person was so intricate to their success.
Yeah, exactly. And you just never know, it's hard to avoid these injuries. Torrey Beckman's one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the nation, and you could do everything to avoid it. All the training in the world, all the weightlifting, and that wrong cut, that wrong hit. I mean, we saw one of the biggest, athletes of all time, Bo Jackson, deal with that hip injury, and his career was over. You know what I'm saying? Just like that. So it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. And now where do you go from there? That running back room, it felt deep because of CJ Baxter being in there. But now you're probably going to have to rely on these freshmen. And I'm not saying that these freshmen aren't capable, but we know what CJ Baxter was supposed to bring to the table with this 2024 Texas team, coming in as a 5-star recruit and, just all the expectation. He didn't get the right jump on the 2023 season because of injuries. And, Cole, you've been around the game for a long time. You've seen a plethora of players at different positions. My guy, Bucky Gobble, who you can hear in the morning from 8 to 10 with Brad Kellner, he's always talked about him being a former running back coach. Mm-hmm. And as long as he's been around the game, he's always talked about when you're recruiting these guys, it's so hard to nitpick the ones that aren't going to come in already beaten up due to their previous stop in high school. Because most of the time, especially at a place like Texas, when you're a 4 or 5-star person, you're getting 30-plus touches. You're getting buku touches. You're getting a lot of reps, and that could be wear and tear on the guy's body, even if they're in high school and they're not developed yet. So when they get to college, they get a lot of injuries in college. And you low-key saw that with Jordan Whittington. Like Whittington coming from Cuero, he did everything. He was the offensive and defensive MVP in the state championship game. He was always on the field. And what did Jordan Whittington deal with those first few years? Injuries. A lot of injuries, man. So I'm not saying this is what it is with CJ Baxter, but you do see that pattern with certain guys that get a lot of run, a lot of bump in their high school career. And then they come to college and they just can't get healthy because they come in January, they're thrown into the fire. And even though the resources are as good as they've ever been on recovery and getting these guys right Saturday in, Saturday out, still, there's still guys that don't have that comeback like others and might need a little bit longer and just have those injuries that are always going to be there. And to hear this about CJ Baxter, man, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
The problem is that you talk to people in the NFL, and this is where sometimes my brain goes because of I have to go break down to people why you don't want this person on your fantasy team or why you don't understand why they're not being used properly. It's because of the exact same thing. Bucky is 100% correct when it comes from the high school level to the college level, and it goes on to the college level to the NFL level. So one name right now that I was asked about yesterday on a podcast was Blake Corum's role with the future of the Los Angeles Rams. And I went on bold take and said, I don't think he is going to last in the NFL because of how much they wore his body down when he was at Michigan. He was the offense on so many different occasions. That was the guy that was pushing, pile driving, making sure that the Maize and Blue found their way to a national title. And so now you wonder, is that going to be the case for him in the NFL? Can he stay healthy? Can he have that same impact? But you see it in high school all the time when these future phenoms that are multi-talented positionless players come on in. Part of the reason why their positionless was not number one, they were either the best athlete on their team, and coaches back in high school wanted to win that state title. They wanted to put their team in a position to where they were always going to be hell-bent on the dominant force. But also the other thing is that now they don't care about the next role for them. Like, I've had this conversation when it comes to Travis Hunter all the time. I think that personally, Deion's doing a detriment to his career at the next level, not because he's not the most talented player, but because you could get him to an all-pro caliber level if you just let him play wide receiver or you just let him play cornerback. And unfortunately, that's going to, I think, hinder his success because of you are going to have too many reps and the injury stockpile is going to continue. And for me, it's not that CJ Baxter is going to be injured prone, but there is going to be this notion now about him. What can we see moving forward? Because you got to remember, week 2 last year against Alabama, gets hurt, misses some time, does not come back in. Eventually has to come back in because you have the injury to Jonathan Brooks, but also you had it the year before. Now you're hearing it this year. Before the season even begins, in practice, he's now out with the PCL and an LCL injury, which is major recovery time for him. And you're not changing your game plan. So every single year now, instead of talking about how he's improved, what he's looked like, how he's gotten better, what's been the recovery process, the first thing that's going to come to most people's minds, can we trust that he stays healthy? And so it's a bad look for him because of now, unfortunately, that's a narrative that will stay around his career for the rest of his time that he's in Austin. And until he shows you consistently, yes, he is healthy, but at the same time, it also does hurt. It hurts the Texas core. The way that I view right now, you talked about this at the very beginning of your rant when you said it felt like this Texas room at running back was deep because of what they have with CJ Baxter and Jaydon Blue. This feels like you set up shop in your mom and pop little Winnebago food truck, and somebody walked in at 11:30 in the morning, said, "Hi, I'm catering an event. I need you to go ahead and buy half of your meals for the day." And now it's just like, oh, well, now we got a game plan and be able to make food for the rest of the afternoon, because if we don't have that, well, guess what? We're out of business. And yeah, you may feel good, but now you lost half your business within an hour span. You lost, I would say, a quarter of your production on the ground within 2 practices. And now you have the game plan for it. And how do you do that? How do you trust these younger players to step up? But also, do you have to start becoming a little bit more creative when it comes to your offensive identity with getting some other players to be involved with jet sweeps, with counter actions? Does a guy like Silas Bolden start seeing a few more reps at running back instead of wide receiver just to be put in that scenario in case of a situation like that? How do we game plan for that? Because this is now a game changer. And I know there's going to be people who say, well, yeah, you got the offense, you got the passing attack that you're able to throw the ball a lot more. That's fine. But the thing that makes Sark's offense so productively problematic for other teams is the fact that they can run the football extremely efficient. And then when they catch you off guard, they're willing to throw it over the top. And so what if you lose that element now? It's a big blow. It's a detrimental blow for this team, especially because the reality is expectations aren't changing. And they aren't, because if you've already seen last year, well, we lost Jonathan Brooks. He was on pace to potentially be the Doak Walker Award winner, and we still found a way to the playoff. Next man up. That's the way they're going to have to treat it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tre Wisner, he's going to have to grow up sooner than we thought he would, because we thought he would be just that plug-in, what we saw from Keelan Robinson last year type of character. And no, that's not the case. Like, you're number two. And it's not like you should make Jaydon Blue the ultimate bell cow. I mean, we know he is the bell cow, but I don't think he should be getting bell cow touches. I still think you need to split it up with him, because that's a guy going back to his high school days that also had injury trouble.
Yeah.
So to just completely throw him in as, hey, you're number one, you're not coming off the field, I don't think that's a very good idea. But Tre Wisner, them freshmen, Jerrick Gibson, Christian Clark, got to grow up sooner than you thought. Got to grow up sooner than you thought. That's just what it is. And I like what you're saying about maybe finding one of these big-time wide receivers that just needs the ball in their hands to make something happen. Maybe mix it up with them. Not saying do it every time, but maybe you can mix it up with a Matthew Golden or a Ryan Wingo or Silas Bolden in the backfield. And, Sark, this is why you get paid 10-something million, to figure it out. But this is what's next.
This is also why you go out and you add in all these playmakers and say, oh, they're going to have a role for us. This is the role. This might be the role for Silas Bolden or for Matthew Golden or for Ryan Wingo as a freshman, just to see the field. And they may absolutely crush it in this role. They may just be a guy that you see line up in the backfield for quick swing routes to where their speed allows them to win at the point of attack, and they just terrorize opponents. And that's their identity. But this is why you go out and you add these players. And this is why when you get paid tens of millions of dollars, you're supposed to come on in immediately and have some sort of schematic identity that will allow you to recoup the losses that you're going to now have to replace with number 4.
Yeah. Yeah, and damn, man, just seeing CJ Baxter last week in the presser, he looked so excited. He looked so ready to go, and you feel for him. You work all off season. You saw what Jonathan Brooks did. You weren't healthy in 2023 like you could have been, but you showed those strides. You showed those strides of being a very terrific running back, being that 5-star that we all thought you were going to be coming in. And now you think that you're going to have an opportunity to show the nation what you are on the Texas team that has so many different, just so optimistic goals set for him coming into this year. And now you're in rehab and you're trying to just get back right for 2025. And that's tough. I feel for the guy. Like, I really do, man. Like, this, obviously you feel for the team, but I definitely feel for CJ Baxter, because he knew how special, and everybody knows how special this squad could be. And he was going to be a big part of that.
I don't mean to come off color with this statement at all, but it hurts even more because if it didn't happen in the game. It didn't happen before the start of the season. It didn't happen during the middle of a rep that could have been a big difference for the squad. Like when Quinn went down against Alabama in 2022, and they kind of set the tone for that game. At least Quinn was able to set a tone for what to expect moving forward. And yeah, you lost the game, and yes, you lost some pieces, but he was a factor into establishing what that roster was going to look like on Saturday. Baxter's not even on the field. And it's a fluke thing that just happens out of the blue, and it happens at practice when really you're not supposed to be going to the ground to begin with, and you don't know what officially went wrong. Did you just cut the wrong way, and unfortunately now your season's over? I think that's what hurts the most, is that he's not going to be contributing in any capacity to this season, where what just happens if he goes and he bulldozes it in for a 3-yard touchdown against Michigan, and unfortunately he can't play the rest of the game, but at least he gets that touchdown. And maybe that's the touchdown that's the difference maker between a win and a loss. For me, the worst feeling is losing a player in what maybe is an avoidable incident before anything actually transpires on the field on Saturdays.
Yeah, man. This one hurts. And now you're looking at this wide receiver room that you lose A.D. Mitchell, you lose Xavier Worthy, you lose J.T. Sanders, you lose Jordan Whittington. And as much talent as you have in that wide receiver room, it might be just straight up throw first and then, coming in and being good with that. and putting a lot more pressure on Quinn than he would have had if CJ Baxter was in the lineup at this point. And that's risky. In the SEC, you know those DBs, man. Like that's risky to do a lot, not have that balance.
They will feast, especially if they catch you slipping. Like they are literally ninjas in the night at midnight in the middle of a dark alley. Like you can't see them half the time. They will come out of nowhere and pick you apart. I already think that right now, when you think about this, Quinn already had some of the highest pressure in college football. He doesn't have as big as a security net anymore in the backfield. Does this not raise the stakes for him just a little? Maybe not raise the stakes is the right word, but does this not put even more pressure on him now to deliver?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because now I think all those touches that were going to CJ, you want to say that Tre Wisner's ready. You would like to think that Tre Wisner's ready, and maybe you could sprinkle in Jerrick Gibson and Christian Clark, whoever has the upper hand right now in camp, and until that August 31st game against Colorado State happens. But yeah, I think Quinn Ewers, you got about 8 more throws now that CJ Baxter's at, maybe 10 now that CJ Baxter's out. And like you said, do you get creative and put some of those wide receivers in the backfield and throw some of that swing stuff or get some nice little wheel routes in there? But also those guys now, if you put them back there, there's going to be times where you're going to have to pass protect and do running back shit, which, okay, you come in today and practice. Are you telling Ryan Wingo, Silas Bolden, Isaiah Bond, hey, we're going to have y'all working with the running backs a little bit just because that's where we are right now? I don't.
Oh, by the way, Trey Moore. Yeah, by the way, Trey Moore, that's the start of what you may see on Saturdays if you have to go and pass pro. That's just the start. We're not even talking about other guys that may be coming back there.
Yeah. And that's, again, a lot of running backs that are good at toking that rock. They could be shit at pass protection, and they don't see the field because of that. Because protecting the quarterback is number one on the list. So, yeah, I'm with you. Quinn has even more pressure put on him. And look, if you're Sark, you got to keep the main thing.
Yeah.
We're still trying to win a national championship here. Like, this is Texas. It's kind of like a so what. A lot of people don't give a damn what happened. A lot of people are going to lose some of their top players. So it's just like a so what? Nobody's going to take it easy on you. And look, I've said that this team could easily go 8-4. Like, you could lose to A&M. You could lose to Oklahoma, Michigan, Georgia. You could go 8-4. And now that makes that with CJ Baxter even more realistic. So, again, this team with all those 20-something leaders that Steve Sarkisian preached at SEC Media Day, I expect that leadership to really show at a time like this. Like, if anything, this could bring the team together and make them even tighter. Like, hey, guys, we got to really go because we're going to rely a ton on CJ this year, and not just for the running back room. That's for defense, everybody's secondary, defensive line, and not to mention this offensive line with all that experience. This is one of the best offensive lines in the country. Now you guys got to make it easier for Tre Wisner, Jerrick Gibson, and Christian Clark. Y'all really got to move folks like Kelvin Banks. You're going to get paid next year, bro.
You're getting paid now. Like, just now, my guy. This is what we're paying you for. It's for this type of shit right here. Okay, here's the other thing. You maybe don't even need Quinn to be elite of elite every single game. But you got to set the standard. And I think that's really what this comes down to, because you don't know what you're going to do with Gibson and Wisner when it comes to their role for the first couple games. So this is where you are going to need to see him step up. Like, I honestly think that the pressure resides going into the midway point, because at that point of the year, you'll have a good understanding about what your running back room is. You'll know what works. You'll know what doesn't. And unfortunately, you may have to throw out half the playbook because it no longer caters to your strengths. But Quinn's got to stabilize the ship. But I'm glad that you brought this up, because Sark did mention 20 plus leaders in that locker room. You want to know what is the best team? And I had this conversation when we were doing storylines for SEC on SEC Unfiltered. The reason why I still don't change my opinion about Georgia is because of it's always been the same. It's the same. What does your locker room look like? What does your leadership in the locker room look like? I'm telling you right now, if you are as good as you think you are, then you should be able to catapult past everybody. Because Michigan last year didn't have its freaking head coach for half the season, and Sharon Moore was a glorified babysitter. He's going to get a shot now to be able to take over, and I'm excited to see the Sharon Moore era take flight.
Damn, babysitter? Come on.
Dude, you're playing the 3 biggest games of the year, and your offensive line, without Zach Zenter in one of them, balls the hell out. Your defense steps up without a head coach. Your wide receivers play out of their freaking mind, and your running back room is ready just to pulverize people. That's leadership, and that's Georgia. Like, Georgia right now, the entire point that I look at is if they're going to be a great team at some consistency, a Carson Beck or a Dylan Bell or a Malachi Stark has to sit people down and go, stay the hell off of the damn straights. We don't need you racing on a Friday night to make a point against somebody that's calling you out on Twitter because we need you for a Saturday game. It's the same thing at Texas. You want to be compared to those squads. I've done it. I have firmly, I'll play devil's advocate. I have been one of the people who has said Texas has the identity and the culture moving forward in a version of the SEC to where they will show up at the big boy table and they will say, we belong, and we're going to show you that we belong. And it'll take a game for them to be able to do that. It'll take a buck minute for them to be able to go, yeah, we're good. But that's where culture steps in. And I'm glad you brought up defense. Defense has got to step up. The defense has got to be able to get 3 and outs in the ball back to the offense as much as possible. They got to force turnovers. They got to be able to put offenses behind the 6 on 3rd and long. They have to be able to march into environments. Wide receivers got to step up. Offensive line's got to play better. And I mean the offensive line's got to play better for Quinn because also, what if there are games where you realize we just can't run the football? We can only win through the air. We got to pass. You got to be able to block for him so he has time to be able to move down the field. So I'm looking at where this roster is. If you are as good as you think that you are, as much as this injury does hurt, as detrimental as it is to crushing the souls of some inside the locker room, you have to realize that it's next man up mentality, and the best teams and the ones that survive to a 16-game season are usually player-led. Which players are going to step up and deliver?
Yeah, well said. Well said.